The calendar is the only thing in your financial life that never panics. It does not care if the bill scares you, if the balance feels unfair, if the paycheck is late, or if you promise yourself you will deal with it tomorrow. It just turns the page. On the first day you stop paying a bill, the calendar notices something you do not. Nothing explodes. The apartment is still quiet, the car is still outside, the lights still work, your phone still rings. And because nothing happens, your brain whispers the most dangerous sentence in personal finance. Maybe I can ignore this a little longer. Most people think unpaid bills become dangerous the moment the due date passes, but that is not how the real world usually works. The danger builds by deadline, by category, by consequence, and by how long you stay silent while the calendar keeps moving. If you like calm, honest money management breakdowns with real examples, real numbers, and no hype, subscribe to the channel before we go deeper, because this video is not about fearing every bill. It is about learning which dates actually matter. Here is the core idea. Bills do not punish you all at once, they age. A bill at day 3 is not the same as a bill at day 30. A credit card at day 60 is not the same as a car loan in default. A tax notice ignored for months is not the same as a medical bill you have not even asked to verify. The calendar knows this before you do. It sees the first late fee appear, then the second notice, then the warning letter, then the account stat changes, then the phone calls begin. Then one day, a bill that once felt like paper becomes a system moving without your permission. This is where budgeting for beginners can be misleading. A normal budget teaches you how to assign money before the month begins, but a crisis budget teaches you how to assign attention after the month has already gone wrong. Attention comes before payment. That sounds strange, but it is true. The bill you understand is less dangerous than the bill you refuse to read. The deadline you write down is less terrifying than the deadline you imagine. The phone call you make early is often cheaper than the silence you keep too long. The calendar watches people make the same mistake again and again. They pay the credit card because the app is red. They ignore the rent notice because it feels too heavy. They avoid the utility company because they feel embarrassed. They push the tax letter into a drawer because official language makes them feel small. But the calendar does not rank bills by shame. It ranks them by what happens next. And if you want to survive a month where the money is not enough, you have to learn to do the same thing. By day 7, the calendar sees the first emotional trick. The bill is still unpaid, but life still looks normal enough for denial to survive. You still go to work, you still buy groceries, you still answer messages. So the problem starts to feel less like an emergency and more like background noise. This is where a lot of people lose time, not because they are careless, but because delay feels like relief. If the consequences are not immediate, the mind starts treating silence like a strategy. It is not a strategy. It is just a decision you have not admitted you are making. By day 15, some bills begin changing tone. The credit card adds a late fee. The utility company may send a stronger notice. The lender may remind you of a grace period ending. The medical provider may move from confusing statement to collection warning. None of this means your life is over, but it does mean the clock is no longer theoretical. Here is what people usually think. They think the company that sounds the most aggressive must be the company with the most power. But the calendar knows better. Power is not measured by angry language. Power is measured by what the bill can touch. A credit card can touch your credit score, your interest rate, your stress, and eventually your legal life if it moves far enough. But your car loan can touch tomorrow morning's commute. Your rent can touch where you sleep. Your insurance can touch whether one accident becomes a financial disaster. The part most people overlook is that every bill has two timelines. There is the official timeline, the dates written in notices and policies. Then there is the life timeline, the way one missed payment affects work, family, health, sleep, and your ability to make the next good decision. After a few weeks, the life timeline can move faster than the official timeline. Your credit card may not have reached the worst stage yet, but the stress from avoiding it may already be making you overdraft, skip groceries, argue at home, or ignore a more important notice. That is why unpaid bills become dangerous quietly. Not because one missed payment ruins everything, but because fear starts managing your attention. And attention is one of the most valuable things you have when money is tight. Comment checklist below and check the pinned comment. I'll leave a free bill priority checklist there so you can sort your bills by deadline, consequence, and recovery impact before the calendar makes the decision for you. Now the calendar turns to the most important question in the whole month. Which bill needs money? Which bill needs a phone call? Which bill needs negotiation? And which bill mainly needs you to stop being afraid of reading it? First, the calendar looks at shelter. Rent or mortgage is not just another payment with a due date. It is the address where your recovery happens. It is where you sleep, where your kids get ready for school, where your work clothes hang, where your documents stay, and where tomorrow has a place to begin. If shelter is at risk, the calendar moves it higher than almost everything else. Not because landlords are saints, not because banks deserve your last dollar more than anyone else, but because losing housing can turn one financial problem into 10 new problems with moving costs, deposits, storage fees, missed work, and stress that follows you everywhere. Second, the calendar looks at transportation and income. If the car gets you to work, then the car payment, insurance, gas, and necessary repairs are not just car expenses. They are paycheck protection. A missed payment can hurt. A lost commute can wound the whole month. Third, the calendar checks utilities and communication. Electricity, water, heat, and phone service may feel ordinary, but ordinary is the thing you need most when life is unstable. A phone is not just entertainment if your job, bank, school, doctor, or family depends on reaching you. Fourth, the calendar looks at government debt and taxes. These notices may not shout. They may not call during dinner. They may not send dramatic messages with bright red buttons, but silence with government debt can become expensive because the rules are different and the system does not need your emotional readiness to keep moving. Fifth, the calendar looks at unsecured debt, credit cards, medical bills, personal loans, and collections. These bills matter. They can hurt your credit score, they can add fees, they can become stressful and in some cases legal. But in a crisis month, they often belong behind the bills that keep your life physically stable. This is where people feel guilty. They hear that credit cards may come later and think that means ignoring responsibility. It does not. It means responsibility has an order. When the money is short, paying by consequence is more responsible than paying by embarrassment. Here is the psychological trap. The calendar moves forward one day at a time, but your fear jumps 6 months into the future. It imagines ruined credit, lawsuits, eviction, repossession, shame, judgment, and a version of your life where every door is closed. Fear compresses the timeline until everything feels like it is happening tonight. But everything is not happening tonight. Some bills need payment, some need a phone call, some need a payment plan, some need verification, some need you to stop hiding long enough to find the real deadline. That is why the first step is not always paying. Sometimes the first step is reading, the second step is writing down the date, the third step is calling before the calendar moves the bill into a category you no longer control. The calendar does not care about your intentions. It does not know that you meant to call on Monday, that you were waiting for the next paycheck, that you were too embarrassed to ask for a hardship plan, or that you needed one more quiet evening before facing the truth. This is why financial stress can feel so unfair. You may be working hard, trying to save money, skipping restaurants, delaying repairs, and still falling behind because the timing of your bills is faster than the timing of your income. That is not always a character problem. Sometimes it is a cash flow problem. A paycheck arrives twice a month, but life charges you whenever it feels like it. Rent does not wait for the medical bill to calm down. Insurance does not care that groceries were higher. The calendar lets everything arrive in the same week. Think about it like an airport runway. Every bill is a plane trying to land. In a normal month, the runway can handle the traffic. But in a crisis month, too many planes are coming in at once. Fuel is low, weather is bad, and somebody has to decide which plane lands first. If you let the loudest pilot choose, the wrong plane may land first. The credit card might get the runway while the rent circles overhead. The collection call might get attention while the insurance deadline gets missed. The red app might land while the quiet tax notice keeps descending. A crisis budget is air traffic control. It does not make the storm disappear. It does not create more runway, but it gives every bill a priority based on danger, fuel, timing, and what happens if it stays in the air too long. That is the mature version of budgeting. Not pretending every bill can be paid, not pretending you feel calm, not pretending you are above financial fear, just refusing to let fear pick the landing order. The calendar respects action more than emotion. A payment helps, a phone call can help, a written payment plan can help, a verified bill can help, a due date moved by 5 days can help, but hiding gives the calendar nothing to work with. Comment traps below if you want the free checklist. I'll pin it in the comments so you can see which bill deadlines matter most, which ones can be negotiated, and how to build a crisis payment order before the month gets away from you. Now here is the practical move. Before the next payday, take every bill and write 3 things beside it: the due date, the next consequence, and the first action you can take before that consequence arrives. First, circle the bills that protect the foundation: shelter, basic food, transportation to work, utilities, phone access, insurance, taxes, and anything tied directly to income. These are the bills that keep the rest of your life repairable. Second, Mark the bills that need communication before they need full payment. A landlord may need a date. A utility company may offer a payment plan. A lender may explain the real default timeline. A medical provider may reduce, verify, or split the balance. The calendar rewards early contact. Third, place unsecured debt into the negotiation zone. Credit cards, medical bills, personal loans, and old collections can still hurt you, but they should not automatically take the last dollar just because they create the most stress. Fourth, be careful with old debt. Before you send even a small payment, understand what the debt is, who owns it, how old it is, whether the amount is correct, and whether paying could restart a clock you did not mean to restart. Fifth, build a short survival plan instead of a perfect financial plan. What must happen in the next 7 days? Which bill needs a call? Which autopay could overdraft the account? Which expense can pause? Which payment protects your ability to keep earning? The deeper lesson is that unpaid bills are not just about money, they are about time. A bill becomes more powerful when you do not know its deadline, when you do not know its consequence, and when fear keeps you from learning the difference. The calendar will keep moving whether you panic or plan. So protect the foundation first, communicate before doors close, negotiate what can move, and never let the loudest bill decide the order of your life. Look at your own calendar tonight. Which date have you been avoiding? Which notice have you not opened? Which bill feels terrifying only because you do not actually know what happens next? Comment checklist below and check the pinned comment. I'll leave the free bill priority checklist there, along with simple cash flow notes and private community details for calm personal finance breakdowns when the month feels too tight. The monster was never the bill itself. The monster was the blank space on the calendar where the next step should have been.